has captured this much market. Sometimes ESOPs will be vested. Most commonly understood vesting conditions are their ability to stay with the company. If they stay with with the company for 3 years or 4 years, then they get the vesting ability, that is the ability to take the grant of shares. Exercise period is basically once you have qualified for taking the shares, you can exercise your option in a limited period of time, probably within a year. Since the shares got vested, ESOPs got vested, you can go ahead and exercise your option to take the grant of the shares. So these are some of the basics. I've quickly gone through it. Now we shall get deep dive into the actual things about ESOP valuation. Now, when is ESOP valuation required? Basically, we can, if we think about it chronologically, the very first time ESOP valuation will be required is when the management is exploring the option to go for ESOPs, whether they should go for ESOPs or whether they should increase their staff salary. And if attrition is a really big problem in the company, and they will look at the cost of attrition and then they will compare it with the cost of issuing an ESOP. If they match out, if the ESOP is more beneficial, the company will go for ESOP allotment. And then after an ESOP scheme is brought out, it will be needed year on year for financial reporting purpose. Every year, as per Ind AS, as well as general GAAP, general accounting adopted principles, ESOP valuation is required so that expense is reported year on year on how much it is to be done. And for income tax purposes as well, for the employee to calculate the benefit or the perquisite received, ESOP valuation is not required. Share valuation is more than enough for income tax perquisite. But this income tax part will not be handled by me. It is already a separate session, the legal framework. So it will be covered over there. Now getting down into the actual valuation of ESOPs. When we talk about ESOP valuations, there are 3 or 4 methods. Black-Scholes-Merton model, a binomial or trinomial tree model, and Monte Carlo model. All of these 3 models, of course, are used in option valuation in general and not just ESOP valuation. Each of these methods have their own merits and demerits. While Black-Scholes-Merton model and the binomial or trinomial tree model is the most used models for ESOP valuation, Monte Carlo model is rarely used. It is more of a scientific evaluation. If you give ESOP valuation assignment not to a merchant banker or a registered valuer, but if you give it to, say, an actuary, they will probably use Monte Carlo simulation. Mainly because Monte Carlo simulation uses a lot of variables. It may range from what will be the weather to what kind of monsoon will be there. So every possible variable is first researched that can impact the valuation of an option, and then arrived at. Probably from now on, Monte Carlo simulation will also take into account what is the probability of the next pandemic coming, so that the valuations are affected. So while in Black-Scholes-Merton and binomial trinomial tree model that we are going to study now, you will see that those kind of assumptions cannot be taken into account so easily. Or even if they are taken into account, they are going to affect a lot of numbers. So Black-Scholes and binomial have their own limitations. But the best part about Black-Scholes and binomial model are they are easily deployable. If you have an assignment in your hand today, you can easily deploy it tomorrow and give the valuation report. So they don't need extensive research to be made. They require a little bit of assumptions to be made. Those assumptions are key. And We will talk about those assumptions when we discuss further. But one thing is Black-Scholes and binomial are easily deployable. Now, so now say let us we have an assignment. Which valuation model should I go for? Should I go for a Black-Scholes-Merton model or binomial tree model will be the next question. All right, so let us study the merits and demerits of each of these models. Black-Scholes model is easily deployable. You find numerous online calculators and it can be used. There are fixed inputs. If I can take you back to the inputs, these are the 6 inputs that are needed for a Black-Scholes model valuation. What are those? Risk-free rate, again, publicly available information. Fair value of the shares. You have to have a valuation report, especially if it's an unlisted company. If it's a listed company, you may be able to take the current trading price depending on the volumes that are there. Dividend yield can be taken in both these methods. Volatility is important, that is the standard deviation of returns or log normal returns. Now, volatility is the biggest contentious issue in the option valuation. Whenever we value using either Black-Scholes or binomial, volatility is the biggest assumption that we'll be making, because risk-free rate and fair value again, it would have had its own assumptions when the report would have come. But the biggest factor that is going to put us off in our valuation of option is the volatility. So here we need as to what is the volatility that we are going to take when we are going to value the options. Life of the option, again, no assumption there, and the exercise price is also not an assumption. It is already provided by the management. All right, so now getting into the Black-Scholes and binomial. Black-Scholes, as I told you, it takes in fixed inputs. It is a black box calculator. So what it means is, if you put in the values in a Black-Scholes model, it is going to give an output, but you cannot do anything in the middle. There isn't much that can be done in case your assumptions, if you want to do different assumptions, like as I told you, the COVID-19 part, what there isn't much you can put in the Black-Scholes model as a variable that would reflect pandemics or that would reflect volatility at different points in time. Yeah, and the next point is the fixed volatility. Black-Scholes model, whether you're valuing an option which is going to expire in the next 15 days or an option that is going to expire 2 years or 2.5 years down the line, is going to take the same volatility. There isn't much that you can do with volatility. It's a fixed volatility assumption. If you have not understood what this fixed volatility means, as we proceed, you'll be able to understand. Binomial model. In a binomial model, one thing is, you can get the same answer through a binomial model as you get in a Black-Scholes model. You may be surprised, but yes, in case if you have multiple iterative steps, usually when we are studying stochastically, we will be probably doing a single step or a double step binomial model. But when we in practical life, when we are actually taking up assignments, we may have to do binomial valuation in the steps ranging between 50 to 400 steps of binomial tree we'll have to build. It is not so daunting. It is quite easy to do that. But the problem comes is when you want to put in multiple assumptions along the way. Say you assume that between the first month and the 6th month of the issue of ESOP scheme, the volatility is around 10%, but from the 6th month to 12th month, you want a volatility of around 15%, and from there on 20%, and things like that. If you want to play around with volatility, which is the only variable factor that we can take into, then the model becomes quite complex. So for this, to use a binomial model, a lot of research is required. You need to have multiple inputs, multiple studies into the future. 6 months down the line, what might be the situations? 10 months down the line, what might be the situation? And that is when, if you need a complete utilization of the potential that is there in the binomial option modeling method. Um, Both Black-Scholes and binomial, in case if you use the same volatility, they give out the same result. In case the number of steps that you use in binomial are quite high, like 100 is good enough, where the answer from Black-Scholes and binomial will be the pretty much the same. Binomial can get pretty complex if you make multiple assumptions. So in today's situation, what we're going to study is option valuation both in Black-Scholes and binomial model. Now, I'm just looking at a question in the chat box. Why shouldn't the volatility vary with period? Since mostly historical volatility is such volatility based on time periods which are equal to vesting periods can be used. Yes, sir, I agree with you. Especially in long-term options, we tend to use historical volatility. But the problem is when you look into the future, say between you have an option in front of you that is going to mature in the 3 years. Say for the first year, you want to use the implied volatility, and for the second year, you want to use, say, historical volatility, and third year, you want to use a combination of implied and historical volatility. Black-Scholes model is not going to give you that freedom. Black-Scholes model, if you assume 20% as volatility, you have to use 20% as the metric for all the years. But in a binomial option model, you have the capability to change the volatility at different time periods. At a time period of 1 year, you can use volatility for all the time periods. After 1 year, you can use a different volatility. But in Black-Scholes model, it is almost impossible to do that. All right. Okay, I see more questions on volatility. We'll be discussing more about volatility now. Historical volatility versus implied volatility. How do we calculate both of these? Now let me talk about both the situations where you're valuing a listed company or an unlisted company. If you're valuing a listed company, historical volatility is good enough. You go to NSE India historical prices. Today we'll in fact do that. We'll do a hands-on how to do the historical volatility calculation. We'll take a data dump from National Stock Exchange of the company which we are valuing of the past 24 months, 48 months, or whichever term for which we are valuing these options for. And we look at the log normal distributions, the natural log of all the closing prices we're going to take, and arrive at the per annum basis what is the standard deviation or historical volatility. Historical volatility can be directly calculated. It is not so difficult. You take the data dump, you do it, you get historical volatility. But implied volatility can almost never be calculated directly, mainly because implied volatility is not what you can say an intrinsic value measure or a fair value measure. It is a market driven measure. It is a pricing of the volatility that is nothing but implied volatility. How can we find out implied volatility? We value a say option. Let me take example of say HDFC Bank. We value the option using our own assumptions of volatility, and we see what is and we arrive at the call option or the put option as the case may be. Whatever is the call option price and put option price, we compare it with a similar strike price and expiry which is quoted in the market. If the quotation in the market is higher than our valuation, that means